Hi, Gwen Lynn here for In a Green Minute. I'm an environmental scientist and I'm kind of dressed up for the day. Happy Halloween, everybody. I am the mad scientist at large. I've got my green pussy hat on. I've got my gloves, my lab coat, my safety glasses, and I am here with Daniel Lanzillotta, our guest. He is an eco-artist and a plastician, and we have our masks. We're trying to be safe. How are you doing today, Daniel?
I am doing amazingly well. Thank you.
Good. You going to have a good Halloween?
Oh, yeah, I'm having it. I'm living it. Every day's Halloween. Come on.
Well, listen, you are pretty well known in the art arena as well as in the environmental arena as an environmental artist. Can you just explain a little bit about environmental art and being a plastician?
Well, an environmental artist is a person who observes the environment and sees what the conditions are with toxicants. And my toxicants are plastics.
Okay.
And mostly when I started out, it was plastic debris from beaches, oceans. And now that I'm not so close to an ocean living in New York City, I'm taking and harvesting my plastic art supply from the streets, from Brooklyn, from Harlem, various places that I live or wherever I am. Plastic is always coming at me. I'm very attracted to it, and I'm selecting plastics very carefully for the pieces.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into some of these pieces, which they are right here. Again, some of them, to me, is artwork. I know you've made some jewelry, but I have a tagline for you because I know you've said it from your work, and I want you to explain it. You bring significance to the seemingly insignificant. Can you elaborate?
Yes. Okay. So you're familiar with the term single stream use of plastics.
Absolutely.
So, for instance, when you buy say a straw from going or a stir from a coffee shop, that's a single stream use of plastics.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a very short life. And that short life, once it's used, and for instance, there's a famous coffee shop that's green, and there's a little green stir plug for the cups.
Right.
So that little stir thing and that little plug is a single stream of plastic. It's like the poster child. Once it's used, it hits the environment. Most of it is thrown right out in front of the store.
Exactly.
Okay, it's about 5 minutes. So I did a little research, and I went and I asked people, and I had a friend of mine who was a manager at one of these many location green coffee shops. And I said, Greg, how many people take that green plug? He says, everybody.
Wow.
Now, there's 100, I believe, in a package. They're made in China. They're made from fossil fuels, from crude oil, and they hit the environment. So that means that I extract that. I see it on the street, and I use a lot of those green stirs. And so that plastic, there's some in this work here as well. That plastic is got a lifespan, and bringing significance to the seemingly insignificant. Once it hits the street or the ocean or a waterway, it has really no meaning. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking that thing out of the environment, and I am imbuing a new life into it with a meaning behind environmental issues. So I use beauty and I use art to bring attention and awareness to the seemingly insignificant.
Okay.
So that translates, because all my work has to come back to how we treat each other, how humans treat each other. And so my work is based around the idea that if you don't care about that item, that disposable, chances are you're not doing too well with your relationships with people. And so I'm trying to make a statement about how we treat each other. So when I give a lecture, I use plastic debris as a way of saying, when you see that thing in the environment, you're also treating people that same way.
Sure.
And so it's a wake-up call. And we are at a very critical place in time about how we treat each other and how we treat the environment.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but I do want you to go more into the body of your work, because I noticed you have these pieces and you have that beautiful piece right there. Now, is that a brooch or what is it?
Well, these are brooches. I wear this stuff, and crazy magical things happen all the time. When I'm wearing this stuff, people chase me. I've get offers for all kinds of things. This one is called Heart of Haiti. I'm a resident artist of Haiti, and so I'm also a Bronx resident artist. So they're striking. People are very attracted to this stuff, but they don't understand what it is. So I use beauty. I use this debris. This is all trash. This is all from the environment, to make a statement about what is happening out there and how we can have a dialogue. So beauty is used to entice people to get attracted to the piece, and then I come out with the big stick, and then I smack them over the head about their participation in the destruction of the environment.
One thing that, I mean, you hate it when I say it. Some people hate it when I say it. One man's trash is another man's treasure. But to me, I see this treasure and I appreciate it. And I know you have a few other things, like this brooch, for instance. Not only the pieces are this big. This could go on the wall. That can go on the wall. That is a piece of art, plain and simple. And then you have this little brooch. What else do you have?
I have earrings. I have hats. I have. I'm using a process called, what is it called? Dye sublimation, I believe it's called. I might be pronouncing that wrong. But it's a process of printing on fabric and they use steam to impregnate the fabric with the image. It's not like an iron-on image or something like that. And so if you photograph or manipulate this on a computer with, Photoshop or something, you can isolate it, manipulate it so that you get these sections, and then that could be taken and made into T-shirts, eyeglasses, shoes, umbrellas.
I think I saw a hoodie.
Hoodies. And it's very, very exciting to be able to digitize the work and extract from isolating it digitally and then making it into some other object. And that to me, that's very exciting because I had to figure a way out, how do I make money with this?
There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Money's good. It's just how you use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit because we're both from the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn Boulevard, and you're from
Northeast Bronx, 238th Street, White Plains Road.
Okay, there you go.
The end of the 2 line.
Where did you go to school, or what was your major in school? Did you go to school
in high school?
Sure, high school, college.
So I decided early on when I was growing up in the Bronx that I wanted to learn something. So I wound up going to Chelsea Vocational High School in Manhattan, which was quite the hike from where I was in the Bronx. And I was late once in all the years that I went there, which was very interesting. And so I studied to become an electrician.
Okay.
And so to this day, in fact, I was wiring something this past week. I'm not licensed, but I can wire just about anything. So it was a very interesting experience for me to decide that I'm going to learn something when I go to high school. And I've had that skill my entire life from high school on. I lived in France. I wound up having a house in France. I wound up wiring the entire house, which to do the renovation of the house took 5 years. And I would leave, I would come back to the States, go back to France, and I would have notes on all the wires that were hanging all over the place.
Right.
And I wired it like a New York City code, which was like unheard of. It was just like, I had receptacles, whatever, 10 feet apart, whatever the code was at the time. And everything was, I literally had outlets like, that just doesn't happen in France. And I did it just like it was going to be wired for a residential American home.
So me as the mad scientist, I'm sure at its worst, I would have loved it.
Yeah. And the house is still there. My son has it now.
There you go. What about school? Did you go to college?
I went to Carnegie Mellon University. I'm a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University.
Good school.
It's one of the best. In fact, I was recently shocked by the fact that I was sitting down somewhere and I picked up a Newsweek. This is recent. And I was paging through it. It says the 50 best universities in the world. And I was like, oh, let me see. I paged through it. And there it was. Carnegie Mellon was number 26. And I was really floored. I was like, wow, I went to one of the best universities in the world. To me, that was a big deal because I was the kid in the Bronx that was not supposed to go to college.
Right.
This was not in my DNA. And then one day, I was doing something with friends in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. And it happened to do with some smoke stuff. And I looked at everybody. I said, I got to get out of here. I have to go do something. accomplish something. And I went home and I said to my mother, I want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, what? This was shocking to her. I was like, no, this wasn't really part of the program.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting because I'm a 1.5 generation American. And the next thing I know, I was on a journey to try to get a degree. And it was a very long and tedious journey. And when I would tell people growing up in my neighborhood and various other places that I was going to go to Carnegie Mellon University, there wasn't a person that was encouraging and said, yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's going to happen. And lo and behold, I jumped on a bus, literally, moved out to L.A. to Santa Monica to go to Santa Monica College.
Right.
Because I heard it was free. I stayed 1 year in California. I got my residency as a Californian, and I wound up going to Santa Monica College. And then I got a job at UCLA as the safety coordinator in the chemistry department. Which
Okay.
was very interesting. And that's where I just developed my portfolio for Carnegie Mellon. And I built this incredible, crazy stage within a complete electrical system and miniature lights. And I built everything in the machine shop at UCLA in the chemistry department. And it came time for the portfolio showing in San Francisco, and I packed it all up. It had a name, it had drawings. It was just the very beginning of desktop publishing. Nobody knew what was coming down the pike.
Uh-huh.
But I had gotten a taste of it because Interactive Systems in Santa Monica was on this track to become this place of desktop publishing. And I had a girlfriend, she had just gotten a job there, and we just put together manuals, and it was insane what we put together. And I put that all together as a package for my portfolio, wheeled it in at the portfolio showing in San Francisco, and the drama department head was there, Mel Shapiro, and a Tony Award-winning director on Broadway. He saw my portfolio. He saw the vastness of this project. He just looked at me and goes, "You accept it?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "We don't do it this way. You have to get a letter of acceptance. Don't say anything to anybody. Don't worry about anything." And I was in.
Excellent. So you graduated with what?
I graduated with a BFA in production design for theater, film, and television. And I was also one of the first, if not the only one, to leave the drama department to go into the business school in my senior year, which was unheard of. And that became a minor.
Well, that kind of brings me to the next question. You've been able to link drama and the production end of it to your eco art. Is that correct?
Well, most things, if you stop...
Or the design aspect of it.
Well, yes, most design is design. Texture, whatever, shape, composition, it all comes down to the same thing. So I also have a culinary arts degree. I went to cooking school, and I have a fancy degree in cooking. So it's all basically the same if you stop. Like when you look at a piece like this, this is composition, this is science, this is plastics. There's all kinds of things that are involved with making this. How it's fused together with heat, understanding plastics, thermal welding, and how plastics are held together using heat. And certain plastics can't come together, and they don't want to be together. So there's a lot going on here.
Right.
Color composition. That's all part of the artsy part of it. But yes, I have a certain act for doing that.
Okay, so one thing that just strikes me is the colors. As we were coming here today, there were few people had seen these pieces as they were out, and they were like, wow, they're so colorful. Some, maybe not with all the pieces, but with some. Does color play an aspect, or you just take what you have and you go forth? Because for me, I know, certain reds are more active. Meanwhile, certain blues are more calming.
Yeah, well, in this case, this is the environment speaking to me.
Okay.
So I'm not looking for anything in terms of color. When I find an object in the garbage or on the street or a beach, for instance, this orange, these are Tropicana orange juice caps.
Okay.
This is impregnated at the point of manufacture from where that cap was made. So as I find the pieces That's what the color is. This is Lego. There's all kinds of these are parts from Monopoly.
Tell me a little bit more about that last piece.
This piece here.
Let me hold it. How heavy is it?
Not so bad.
They're not heavy at all.
No,
they're very, very light.
The cases are heavier. So you got it.
Yeah.
And so this piece is called Yolanda Petrocelli's Mind. She's a friend of mine. She's an indigenous Mexican Indian, and I wanted to honor her incredible way she thinks and how she sees the world, and her beauty, and her how the colors and the way this is her brain. And when I was looking at the piece, I was trying to name it, and I thought of Yolanda, and once I thought of Yolanda, I realized that's Yolanda's brain. And so she was very, very touched that I named this piece after her. The pieces and the colors are it's just how it comes from the environment, how it's found.
Okay, so
It's never painted, never.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of like I was getting at. You never aim for a certain color; it just kind of happens.
I did try that recently. I just did a piece called American History, The Middle Passage. And the Middle Passage. It turns out a lot of people don't know what the Middle Passage is. And I was going to do a very kind of dark, and I was going to use very dark colors and find only certain types of plastic and make this piece. Then I realized I wanted to have a celebration of Africans who were kidnapped.
Right.
And that were thrown overboard while they were taking their journey to be enslaved people. And so I decided, no, I want to celebrate their lives.
Right.
And so as I find the plastic, that piece will have joy in it as a celebration of such a tragedy. And that piece was in a show in Harlem. It's in a show now in Harlem, a second show. And then that piece will go up to the Gardner Arts Center up in Garnerville. I think it's Garnerville, New York, where I'm doing a residency, and they want me to take that piece and blow it up to a gigantic, humongous piece. So I think I have the go-ahead to do that, and that will be. We're going to try to get that piece to Storm King in the outdoor sculpture garden.
So it'll be outdoors. So
yeah,
you'll have more than enough room, hopefully.
Well, the studio space that they've given me to work in is 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
And I'm making stuff just wherever I sit.
That's pretty cool. I wish I was able to do that. I had once heard you say that, and I'm checking my notes here because I want to make sure I get it right. The only way to heal the planet is to heal one's inner drama.
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the environment and how the environment has been impacted by human beings basically over the last 150 years.
We call it post-industrial, but yeah.
That period of time and to the present, it's been pretty exponential in terms of how much damage has been caused. So I've been wrestling with this for over 20 years on how to deal with this issue. First, it was about consumption, and then it was about recycling. And then when I realized recycling programs really don't work, and most of it's a bunch of it's a hoax. It's
I wouldn't say it's a hoax,
but there's a
lot more things that can be done with recycling.
Yeah, so we're in a kind of a weird place with recycling, and I thought, why is it so? Why is it so? And then I read not so long ago that a bunch of PhDs got together and they realized that ocean-based pollution comes from the land. Hello? It doesn't take a PhD to figure out that humans are putting their waste into the ocean. It's it's not that big. You don't need a big brain to figure that out. So where does it originate? It originates with oneself.
Yeah.
Why is it that you can't just be respectful and honor our environment with the proper disposal? But it's far more complex than that.
Right.
It's far more complex than me dealing with my inner drama. that I have for my own life.
Right.
That I heal myself in order for me to heal with you.
Right.
So there's a whole lot of healing that needs to occur in this culture, specifically around race, finances, between the sexes.
Right.
That needs to be addressed, and that's not that's not happening. But recently, because of the political situation in America and Black Lives Matter and the things that have happened on the streets in America over the last several months since COVID, that the mythology of America is really starting to crumble, and people are starting to realize, like, wow, we haven't been dealing with this stuff for 400 years.
Yeah. Well, people. That's one good thing that's come out of 2020. People have become, at least more people have become awakened, and hopefully, there is no hopeful, it will carry through. No one's going backwards. I know I'm not. Are you?
I haven't been going backwards that way for a long time.
Well, that's good. That leads me to my next question. In terms of the future, what does the future look like to you in terms of the planet, in terms of even environmentally, our air, our water, our soil, your artwork? What do you think?
A lot of artists always are in awe of my art supply store.
Uh-huh.
And my art supply store is post-human consumption, which is litter, waste, garbage, and what have you. So that stream of creative materials is constant. And so my view of what's happening is in light of that there's no leadership in America, and maybe even around the world. And until we change the current administration and his assault on the environment and the laws that were put into place, the EPA, Clean Water Act, and so forth and so on, until we have a true, real leadership, and we can actually have somebody that's at the helm saying, we need to clean this up. Because the greatest thing about toxicants is that it's the most democratic thing on earth. It doesn't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, Arab, Jew, Christian. When the environment is toxic, it only cares that you're a host and that this toxicant can use your body for it to do its dirty deeds. So
in other words, in theory, if we were able to accomplish a zero waste economy, you'd be out of work.
Well, that's a fallacy, in my opinion. There is no such thing as zero waste. It's not possible. If you get out of bed and turn on a light switch, you're participating in waste. If you get out of bed and use your cell phone, you're participating in waste. If you push your mouse on your computer, you're participating in waste. You may not see it. Waste doesn't mean that you take a wrapper and throw it out the window. Waste means that you're participating somewhere along the line. That there's a hierarchy to waste from natural resource. If you're looking at a linear economy, from raw materials to manufacture to consumption to the grave, then you're participating in it. If you're participating in a circular economy, in loop economies, then you're a little bit better off. But we're not there yet. And so as we see this unfold and the damage done. And COVID in many respects is a wake-up call to say something is wrong with the environment. Something is wrong where nature is clashing with modern human beings and their consumption. Wet markets are a clash of consciousness.
Sure.
Okay, so there's all these things that need to be addressed about what's coming down the pike. COVID is a wake-up call because right behind COVID-19, there are many, many other viruses and many, many outbreaks are going to happen, and there will be a thing called rapid cycling, which means that each event will become closer and closer to the next. While we're catching up and trying to deal with COVID, which we have not in this country at least, we have not dealt with it properly because of the political situation in America. But when we do get our hands gripped around this situation, there's something coming down the pike, and we're not even dealing with this situation now.
Right.
So the one that's coming down the pike could be worse.
Right.
And that's going to happen quick. And then the one behind that's going to happen quicker and quicker, and we won't be able to catch up. So that's what the problem is. We're not addressing the real issues scientifically with the public, with how this current administration has dealt with how this person has wiped out the equivalent of the CDC in China for various reasons.
Well, that's for another show.
For another
But we only have so much time for this. However, I'm really glad that I was able to bring you in. I love your stuff. Do you have a show going currently or a show coming up soon?
Well, there's a show at PS 109 in Harlem at Art Space, which is by appointment only. You have to either go on Harlem Art Walk and find the telephone number that's there on the Harlem Art Walk and call and make an appointment. My piece, American History, The Middle Passage, is there. And then I believe November 14th up at the Gardner Arts Center, there'll be another show, but I'm not sure about that date because it's entirely up to me to get it installed. And so all the artwork is there except these 3 pieces. I had it in storage. I brought it up there. Then I had to go back and get it to bring it here. It was a little crazy. And so that'll happen around the 14th of November, and that'll be a good show.
Well, Daniel, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to be on In a Green Minute with me. Where and how can your fans reach you? Online or
online? They can call. They can Google me. They can, but the easiest way is on Instagram. My name, Daniel Lanzillotta, on Instagram.
And just spell it slowly.
DanielLanzillotta.
Great. Daniel, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please just let me know. Same thing on Instagram. Gwen on Instagram at In a Green Minute. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Happy Halloween. Stay safe or else the mad scientist is coming to get you.
Wear your mask.
And wear your mask.
Wash your hands.
Pretty, no?